8 greatest cult classic movies to stream on Netflix. By the strictest definition, a cult classic is a movie or show that was not generally well received in its time, but has developed a niche following in the years since. In practice, the term is used for any project that has managed to garner a dedicated community of fans outside the cultural mainstream. Netflix is home to several cult classics of both definitions, but just because a movie has a following doesn't necessarily mean it's any good. So, if you're looking for a great, offbeat film that's also a genuine cinematic great, read on to discover our handpicked selection of the greatest cult classic movies you can stream right now on Netflix. Looking for more hidden gems and underrated picks? Be sure to check out our lists of the most underrated psychological thrillers on Netflix, the best hidden gem movies on Netflix, or the best movies on Netflix you haven't seen. The Breakfast Club 1985. A 1985 coming-of-age comedy written, directed, and produced by John Hughes, The Breakfast Club follows 5 high school students who find themselves stuck in detention together under the watchful eye of their strict vice principal. They're each from different cliques and embody different high school archetypes, but as time goes on, they discover unexpected common ground and form new bonds with each other. The film stars Emilio Estevez, Paul Gleason, Anthony Michael Hall, Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, and Ally Sheedy. One of the most quintessentially 80s comedies, The Breakfast Club was a critical and commercial success in its day and had a huge impact on the cultural landscape of the decade. A comedic masterpiece from one of American comedy's greatest filmmakers, the film has inspired countless generations of later writers and filmmakers, with numerous references, tributes, and parodies in subsequent movies and shows. An authentic story with brilliant performances, the movie continues to enjoy a fan following to this day and is widely regarded as one of the greatest films of all time. The Blues Brothers 1980. A 1980 musical action comedy based on the eponymous Saturday Night Live sketch, The Blues Brothers stars John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd as blood brothers and former blues singers, Joliet Jake Blues and Elwood J. Blues, who attempt to reunite their R&B band so they can save the orphanage they grew up in from foreclosure. The film was directed by John Landis, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Dan Aykroyd. The movie also stars Carrie Fisher and Henry Gibson in supporting roles, with musical appearances by James Brown, Cab Calloway, Aretha Franklin, Ray Charles, and John Lee Hooker. The Blues Brothers had a pretty troubled production, with many lengthy delays that ultimately made it one of the most expensive comedies ever produced. When it finally premiered, the film fared quite well with critics and grossed over $115 million worldwide, breaking all expectations. Featuring some truly stellar musical numbers, charming performances, and over-the-top comedy, the movie's popularity skyrocketed once it was released on home video, and it has enjoyed a dedicated, if niche, following ever since. Midnight Run 1988. Directed by Martin Brest and written by George Gallo, Midnight Run is a 1988 action comedy starring Robert De Niro as a bounty hunter who's hired to capture a mob accountant played by Charles Grodin. What starts as a simple job turns out to be anything but when the hunter finds himself caught between his employer, the mob, and the FBI. Besides De Niro and Grodin, the film also stars Yaphet Kotto, John Ashton, Dennis Farina, and Joe Pantoliano. A hilarious buddy comedy anchored by the excellent chemistry between its two leads, Midnight Run was both critically and commercially successful when it premiered and went on to receive 2 Golden Globe nominations, including Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The movie is also notable as the film that helped De Niro transition out of the crime noir roles that dominated his work in the 70s and 80s, proving that the legendary actor is just as good in comedic roles as he is in dramatic ones. Midnight Run's success and cult status also inspired a series of 1994 TV movies that serve as unconnected sequels. Field of Dreams 1989. Written and directed by Phil Alden Robinson, Field of Dreams is a 1989 sports fantasy drama based on W.P. Kinsella's 1982 novel Shoeless Joe. Kevin Costner stars as Iowa farmer and ardent baseball fan Ray Kinsella, who builds a baseball field in his cornfield at the urging of the ghosts of baseball legends. The film also features Amy Madigan, Gabby Hoffman, Ray Liotta, James Earl Jones, and more in supporting roles, with Burt Lancaster in his final film role. Field of Dreams was quite positively received by the critics of its time and had a successful run at the box office. The film also earned several accolades, including 3 Academy Award nominations. Its true legacy, however, is the generations of baseball fans it has inspired over the decades. The movie continues to enjoy a dedicated following today, nearly 40 years after its premiere, and in 2017, Field of Dreams was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry by the Library of Congress. Pee-wee's Big Holiday, 2016. Written by and starring actor-comedian Paul Reubens, Pee-wee's Big Holiday is an adventure comedy movie that serves as a sequel to Pee-wee's Big Adventure and Big Top Pee-wee. Reubens' final film before his death in 2023, the movie was directed by John Lee and follows the titular protagonist, Pee-wee Herman Reubens, on his first-ever holiday after a chance encounter with actor Joe Manganiello, as himself, gets him invited to Joe's birthday in New York City. The movie also features Alia Shawkat, David Arquette, Stephanie Beatriz, Paul Rust, and more in supporting roles. A cross-country road trip comedy full of madcap hijinks and silly mishaps, Pee-wee's Big Holiday is a sweet and fun adventure film that's a real treat for Pee-wee Herman fans and genre buffs. The movie was quite acclaimed by critics at the time of its release, receiving praise for its humor and subtextual queer love story, and the film presents a surprisingly compelling narrative on finding one's own happiness and resolving identity conflicts. Directed by David Lynch, 1984's Dune is an epic space opera film based on Frank Herbert's eponymous 1965 novel. It was the first film adaptation of the seminal novel, hitting theaters over 30 years before Denis Villeneuve's 2021 film. Starring Kyle MacLachlan in his film debut, Dune follows Paul Atreides, the son of a duke on the desert planet of Arrakis, who leads an army to protect the land from the evil House Harkonnen, while also fulfilling a long-standing prophecy. Besides MacLachlan, the film also features Francesca Annis, Patrick Stewart, Brad Dourif, Virginia Madsen, Sting, and Linda Hunt in key roles. Dune was critically panned at the time of its premiere and ended up a box office failure, but it did find a niche audience of fans, and over the years, it's developed quite a cult following. Despite being considered a failed adaptation of Herbert's work, Dune manages to capture and extract the essence of this incredibly complex sci-fi story, with bizarre world-building and dreamlike energy that presents a flawed but unique perspective on the source material. Starship Troopers 1997. Directed by Paul Verhoeven of RoboCop and Total Recall fame, Starship Troopers is a 1997 sci-fi action film written by Edward Neumeier and adapted from Robert A. Heinlein's eponymous 1959 novel. Set in the 23rd century, the movie presents a world where humanity is engaged in an interstellar war against an alien species bent on destroying all life on Earth. The plot follows teenager Johnny Rico, Casper Van Dien, and his classmates, who join the mobile infantry of the United Citizen Federation and become part of this war. The film also stars Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, Jake Busey, Neil Patrick Harris, Patrick Muldoon, and Michael Ironside as main cast members. On its release, Starship Troopers received critical backlash and a pretty negative audience reception because of the violence, gore, and unappealing performances. However, in the years since, the movie has evolved into a cult classic and has launched a successful multimedia franchise consisting of 4 sequel films, an animated series, video games, graphic novels, and more. The film has also been retrospectively reevaluated by critics as a perceptive satire on fascism and the rise of authoritarian government, themes that ring increasingly necessary in today's day and age. Trailer Park Boys, the movie 2006. Directed and produced by Mike Clattenburg, Trailer Park Boys. The movie is a Canadian crime comedy based on the eponymous television series that serves as a sequel to the 1999 film of the same name. The movie stars Rob Wells, John Paul Tremblay, and Mike Smith as the titular trio of friends and petty criminals who plan the Big Dirty, a once-in-a-lifetime heist with a big payout that would secure their futures. Unfortunately, things do not go according to plan. On its release, Trailer Park Boys. The movie earned mixed reviews from critics, but fared well at the box office. While the film's humor might not satisfy all kinds of audiences, fans of the original comedy series would certainly find it enjoyable. Despite its poor critical reception, the film still earned some accolades, landing Genie Award nominations for Best Motion Picture, Best Performance by an Actor in a Supporting Role for Hugh Dillon, and Best Adapted Screenplay.